that. Before we move to our panel discussion, I would just like to thank a few more of our sponsors for helping to make today a success. So I'd like to thank First Bank of Nigeria, our official banking partner. I would also like to thank InterSwitch, our bronze partner, Freshworks, our official customer experience partner, Temenos, our silver partner, at KPMG, our knowledge partner, as well as all media and supporting partners and our official broadcasting partners. If I was to list all of them, we would be here for a long, long time because there are so many, but we really are grateful for all the sponsorships. So now it is time to move into the panel discussion. And the panel discussion, the topic for this discussion is the future of BFSI, where BFSI, and just to make sure that I get it right, is banking, finance services, insurance. So we're looking at the future of this post-pandemic and measures that can be taken to convert crisis into an advantage and improve our current business models. So the moderator will be Erwin van Helden. And hi, Erwin, I already see you.
Nice meeting you.
He is a global digital banking expert, and he will lead the discussion. Our panelists are Dennis Zaga. And guys, again, if I've mispronounced your name, please forgive me and send me a note in the chat and tell me how to pronounce it properly. But Dennis Zaga, he's the head SME and business banking digital innovation for FCMB. There's Dina Marie, who is the CEO and co-founder of HR Revolution magazine in the Middle East. And this is what I love about COVID, where the silver linings are, I am looking at people in different countries and we're all here together. You didn't have to fly to Ghana or anywhere else to come and participate. Then there's Japheth Maniwaki, and Japheth, please forgive me if I haven't pronounced it. He is the CEO of Goodson Capital Partners. Did I do it okay, Japheth? Yeah? All right. Then there's Leopold Arma, Divisional Head Digital Banking and Alliances at GT Bank. I know Leo very well. There's Krishnakant V, Founder and CEO at ReviewSoft, and Temofe Ogbonna, Country Manager, West Africa in Astra. So Erwin, I am handing it over to you. Thank you so much in advance.
Thank you, Gillian. And nice seeing you, nice seeing you. I love your summaries in between. They make it really comprehensible, very good to understand what the previous speaker has spoken about. So thank you for that as well.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you. All right. I think, I'm not sure if I can see all the faces, but we have a great set of people here in the panel. We have two people who are actually working in the business, in banking business. We have two people who are working in supply roles. We have one asset manager and we have one HR representative. In my eyes, that means that we have more or less the whole value chain of BFSI, as it has been named, present in this panel. What we are discussing in this panel is what is the impact of the pandemic, first and foremost. In terms of, we have an economical impact, it's a health issue, but there's an economical impact as well. How are banks stepping up and making sure they can address the issues and needs which came from a lockdown, which came from less business development? And then we see the demand changing into digital banking. And how do we address that together with our suppliers? And how do we address that as banks in this region? And what experiences do we have outside of this region? Because of time, we will be stopping at 2 p.m. Ghana time. So we will be able to catch up a little bit, just we take 10 minutes off. And I think what we should do is having an introduction of each panel member of about 2.5 minutes, tell them their experiences, their views, and I ask them in our preparations phase, I ask them to come up with one single sentence or expression which shows who they are, what they stand for, and what their views are on the pandemic and the post-pandemic potential of digital banking. So 10 minutes, 15 minutes of introduction, a panel discussion, And at the end, we'd love to have some kind of an interaction with the audience for about 10 minutes. And let's see how that works. If the chat box works well or the direct messages work well, then we can manage that as well. So let's first start with an introduction. I will introduce myself as last because I think that's how my mother raised me. And then therefore also we need to start with the lady first. Dina, do you feel comfortable to introduce yourself for a few minutes and give us your expression of how you look at the future of digital banking in the one sentence?
Okay, hello Erwin. I'll make it very short in order to save time. I'm Dina Mar'i. I'm co-founder and board member and former CEO of HR Revolution Middle East, one of the fast-growing business magazines in the MENA region, specialized in the human capital aspects. I've participated in a number of consultancy projects in the area of human resources management in many industries such as food and beverage, information technology, engineering, security and brokerage, healthcare and financial services. I can say I have a little bit long experience in the financial institutions and working for financial institutions diversified from the stock market, securities and brokerage, and finally, and the longest one is a banking sector. I have leveraged lots of training programs, and my current research interests are the area of agile HR, the effect of artificial intelligence and big data and digital transformation on the future of the human capital. I know it's maybe a little bit strange for part of the audience to find someone like me invited as a speaker in order to that have HR background in order to participate in such events. And I think this is because of the well-known stereotype and phenomena of that HR and digital transformation, especially in the banking sector, are enemies. And the popular belief that digital transformation increases the complexity of organizational and relational models, forcing the HR department to adapt and evolve its service offering. As we know, change has become a constant in itself. So this structural need for transformation has a major impact on both hard organizational aspects like structure, business model, performance indicators, as well as the soft aspects like human assets, culture, and management style as well. It has taken a few years for banks and financial institutions to move on from the idea of digital transformation focusing on technology above all. Now they need to go further and acknowledge that a successful transformation depends on the ability to correctly tackle the human challenges. In fact, when transformation projects fail, it is mostly because they prioritize technical tools and solutions over the change really means for the bank and its employees. Putting people first means considering a whole range of challenges, but every time positioning the CHRO as one of the leaders of the digital transformation. And finally, I think I'm here today in order to dig deep and find with you the answer of the question, of the dilemma, if that HR and digital transformation in the banking sector are really friends or enemies. That's all. Thank you, Erwin.
Dina, that was kind of a very strong introduction. I have to say, you touch a lot of aspects of digital banking. That's pretty clear, of digitization, actually, across industries. You're based out of Egypt, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
And my magazine, I'm sorry, Erwin, for the interruption.
No, go ahead.
I have employees and volunteers, around 140 employees all over the world, starting from States, ending to India, and starting from Russia, ending to Australia. And we have office in Dubai as well.
All right. I think you started with, I'm going to keep it short. And I think what you did was,
Sorry.
no, I still think it was a good introduction. So thank you so much for doing that. I definitely will in the discussion later on ask you, okay, human capital, how do you deal with human capital? If there's fear for automation, new skills required, if there's a change in culture in a company and how that all works. And I think we're very lucky to have you on this panel to hear about your experiences and your views on this. But let me take the next step for introducing the next one before we get into that discussion. But thank you so much, Dina. Dennis, would you be so kind to introduce yourself, put out what your views are, and make this one single sentence at the end of how you would want to be perceived or how you want to be remembered. Dennis, go ahead.
All right, thank you, Erwin. My name is Dennis Zaga. I oversee digital innovation in First City Monument Bank, Nigeria, specifically in the SME segment. Okay, so I'm a segment person looking into digital. Now, COVID-19 has come upon us in 2020 and it has changed everything. The way it impacted my deliverables as someone who oversees digital for the segment was it actually helped us to engage our customers more. So especially earlier on in the year, because of the lockdown, a lot of people couldn't move around. And so we saw a rise in the adoption of digital channels. Also, as we continued engagement through webinars, more and more people were able to engage us more. And for me, the takeaway from all that has happened and still happening and the changes we are in and the new normal we hope to see is the user. The user is really very critical. So our customers are really very critical in building our solutions and looking at the customer journeys to ensure that we are building from the customer's perspective. That has really come to fore with the way digital has been thrown up with COVID-19. So I think that will be my statement. My statement will be focus on user experience, focus on what the customer wants. Thank you, Erwin.
Thank you so much. Just a short question on First City Monument Bank. When the lockdown came and the increase and the uptake of digital interaction began, were you ready? Was your infrastructure ready? Was your application layer ready? Or did you have to instantly build and expand your environment?
Okay, good question. I don't think anybody was 100% ready, so of course we're caught unawares. But some things we had started last year, we could now focus on and do more with. So for instance, we had rolled out an online account opening solution. And you can imagine this is more complex for businesses, for registered businesses. This is not just an individual you're trying to onboard. So there's documentation involved. So we had started that last year and we could now really drive that some more. Of course, digital channels, those things like mobile app, things like internet banking, we could do more with that. Another thing we had recently started was a platform. So we started a platform for our SMEs, and it was not just a trading or a merchant selling platform. It was essentially a platform for engagement. So engagement across all our offerings, all our products, really. And we saw the adoption there was phenomenal. We saw that, again, especially this was driven because people really couldn't get to move around, Mm-hmm. So in summary, whilst we were not 100% ready, but because we had put some things in place, it was easier for us to pivot, if you will, and go with the flow of the new normal.
So once the pandemic is hopefully coming in to an end somewhere in 2021, and we come back to a level of normalcy, do you think the uptake in digital banking will be sustained and we will stick to this new level, or do we go back to brick and mortar as a brick and click? I heard somebody say, but what do you think will happen once we go back to normalcy?
Okay, so I think like everyone has been saying, I think it's a new normal. So it's definitely not the old normal. And I do not see brick and mortar going away anytime soon. We would have, some people have changed in their behavior, which is what COVID-19 has done, really. It's changed behavior, it's changed habits. And I think people will continue with that. We also will continue with more in our digital space to engage customers. So I see 2021 and beyond as it's a mix of both, really. I don't see brick and mortar or brick and click going away anytime soon. We'll probably have more people adopting digital than before. Yeah.
Thank you, Dennis. Thank you for the elaborate introduction and already answering a few of my questions. Leopold, Guarantee Trust Bank, good name, big name in the market. Divisional head digital banking. I'm pretty sure you have quite some experience. You can compare the times and the experiences you had in the COVID-19 pandemic uptake in the beginning versus what happened before and how it affected you, your team, and your bank, and most of all your clients. Leopold.
Good morning, good afternoon, and I think good evening, depending on where you are. I am just like what you said, I'm Leopold. I think it's now an understatement to say the world has changed. Every area of our social life have been affected, and one is become a necessity for us to go into isolation, and I think that is what COVID has brought to us. Human contact has been amended to mitigate the risks of the spread. And that is where digitalization is very important because it has stepped in to bridge the gap between us interacting physically and continue extending services. We have been on this digitalization journey for years, but what COVID has taught us is to enable us to test all the infrastructure we've put in place and also take advantage of the opportunities, because then we can now quickly scale up businesses. There is the need for businesses to scale up, and we can drive adoption. And I like what the Deputy Governor said earlier, that it's not just digitalization, but the ultimate goal should be driving adoption, utilization, and scaling our businesses. And we can only do that when we reinvent the traditional ways of doing things. And that is what the journey we've embarked on. My task within the bank is not just to digitalize, but create value for all stakeholders. And all stakeholders include customers, include the shareholders, including our partners. We see all our businesses within the bank, our corporate, commercial, and SMEs as partners to also enable them to also scale up their businesses. And we've put in place the infrastructure and the tools to enable them to scale up their businesses, extend their services to their customers, and in the midst of that, also enable us to attract new customers. For us, the goal is not the present base, but getting the unbanked and the underbanked under the same umbrella. And that's been the project we've been working on for the past few years.
Very, very interesting. If you put a number against the uptake since the pandemic, do you see you must have seen a significant growth in volumes of transactions, digital transactions, maybe digital onboarding. Can you put a number against it? What percentage maybe of your clients or your transaction what is the uptake more or less?
We've seen an average of about 20,000 sign-ons of digital channels by existing customers. And most of our services are self-service and they are online. So we've also seen increase in transaction counts. And more importantly, new customers also opening accounts. It's average of about 20%. And we see it growing because, as I said, it provides us with opportunity to tap into an area we have never utilized before.
Thanks, Leopold. Thanks for the introduction. Thanks for your time. Thanks for being available. I'm going to switch over to our next panel member, Jafet. Jafet, we had a little chat beforehand, and I'm kind of impressed about what you're doing, micro investments and enabling those. And maybe in this audience, there might be also for your other activities, your venture capital on fintech. There might be some candidates for you. I don't know, but maybe you can do your introduction better than I did, Jafet. And there is a sound. You might want to push, Jafet. You might want to push the mute button and then, yeah.
I've done it already.
My lip reading skills are in development since Zoom came in, but this is easier. Good meeting.
My name is Jafet Munyoki. I'm the CEO of Goods and Capital Partners. We started in 2010 initially as an investment banking boutique outfit that handled advisory and asset management. On the asset management specifically to sort of stick to the digital banking conference sort of space, conversation and theme. We have a VC fund that looks at fintech specifically, and that's basically businesses that are into disruption, disintermediation, and financial inclusion. And of course, they must be serving a proper need that can be identified, not like a nice to have sort of add-on. Now, when we looked at our business model, we figured that we need to look at the trends that we've seen internationally. So one of them was the US gig economy. So we looked at numbers. I think the last stats we had was 2018, where 57 million people that comprise 36% of the population actually in the gig economy. So we figured that's where things will move into Africa. And the biggest problem is for us as an organization, we also know that we cannot think as a big sort of organization if we need to survive. We have to think as a startup for us to survive. And that's basically like, the theme of my conversation today. If you're post-COVID, I think for survival for any business, as a CEO, I know one of my roles is to make sure there's enough money in the bank. But how do I get that to happen? One, I need to make sure that we think like a startup and we're agile for us to be able to survive. Now, when we look at the Africa economy, where we're going, in terms of even what's earmarked for digital tech and digital infrastructure spend until 2030, is roughly $100 billion. So essentially that will move the whole mobile penetration by roughly 10%, which experts, of course, believe 2.5% of growth GDP per capita will happen just because of that spend only and because of that penetration. So essentially, what does that mean for us as a business? Listen, we have to be transformed as an organization to be able to manage, to be operationally resilient. And that's why we looked at your micro sort of investment space. Now, the example that I gave in our conversation was the Kenyan border sort of investments on a daily basis. So essentially, minimum investments is 50 US cents, which they can afford. It's less than even a quarter of per trip sort of ride. It's the same with sort of investing in Okoda sort of operators in Nigeria, so to speak. So essentially for us, when we looked at it, we already can see the numbers are more than $1 million. At 50 US cents, it's basically $500,000 on a daily basis. And they work Monday to Monday. Essentially, it's the same conversation around a gig economy in the US is different from a gig economy in Kenya, but essentially it's the same sort of concept. So essentially for us, we looked at it from that standpoint. Now, when we also look at what's happening in the industry from a trend perspective, we're seeing also regulators getting to change in terms of thinking. So essentially, when you look at your Capital Markets Authority in Kenya has already allowed a robo-advisor tech company to actually start testing. So essentially what that means is that now you don't need physical bodies to be able to do advisory, but you're able to actually have robots that do that in the process. So essentially it's happening in the continent. Two, when you look at Johannesburg Stock Exchange, they've actually allowed a crowdfunding platform to be activated on the Johannesburg Stock Exchange. It's the biggest exchange in the continent, contributes close to 55% of transactions in the continent. But for crowdfunding, this is basically a big win. It's something that you wouldn't have had before. And that also comes with a Bitcoin platform. So essentially, we're looking at Bitcoin, blockchain technologies, and crowdfunding to be able to do peer-to-peer. Now, when you look at what has happened in Nigeria, for example, Kuda Bank raised, and it's a digital bank, raised $10 million the other day. And that's the biggest seed amount that we've seen in the continent, because the average is $4 million globally. But at 10 million.
And if we look at your venture capital fund, how much do you have to share?
15 million.
All right, which is even more.
And we look at businesses that we can invest up to $500,000 per entity. So essentially the track is 700 companies. We've chosen 60. We will only invest in 40 of those. And that's basically on fund 1. On fund 2, we'll have Series A and Series B that will now go up to 10 million and 20 million per entity respectively.
All right, Javed, I think we get a very big picture of what you're doing. But what I think in summary is you're starting to stimulate, you see changes in terms of regulations, you see changes in terms of revenue streams moving into digital space, and you are there to stimulate the fintechs which have added value. They need to show their added value. If there's in the audience fintech companies which think, hey, we need some initial funding, can they still contact you and still get in touch with
definitely.
you?
Definitely.
What requirements do you have to a fintech in order to be enabled by your team? How can you...
For us, what we need is to be able to have a prototype. We need to be able to have a solid sort of management team. Essentially, we're willing to want to invest in a one-man sort of team. So normally what happens is that there is always that belief that every sort of startup must have at least 2 minimum founders that basically complement each other from a skill perspective, and 2, being able to see exactly what need they're solving, because there must be a problem that has to be solved. Because essentially from there, in terms of scaling those businesses, in terms of being able to unlock our relationships in the continent to be able to benefit them from a pipeline perspective in terms of projects, then that we're happy to do. So essentially, that's the main thing.
I remember from last year we had, and there's a speaker later on in the agenda, he's called Eric Anand. He's a Kubitics. I don't know what his funding looks like, but I can see some matches with audience members, maybe panel members, maybe, and with your business. So I would recommend everybody to connect with you, maybe in the discussion, but otherwise afterwards, and your contact details are there. So thank you so much, Javed. I'm going to move into the next person on the panel to give the opportunity to do the introduction. Timothy, Finastra, a big name. I know your headquarters here, or your regional headquarters here in Dubai. You are the country manager of West Africa. Timothy, what can you introduce yourself a little bit further than I did, and give your insights on market development since COVID-19 or the pandemic, the current uptake in digital? What does it mean to you? How can you help banks, and how can banks then help their customers the best with solutions you have in mind? Timothy, feel free. If you're there, of course. Did we lose you? Sounds a little bit quiet. I'm pretty sure with Mohammed in the background that he will do everything possible to get Timothy participating with us. Once he comes back, I propose that we give him then the space for the 1 or 2 minutes introduction, so we know for sure that he will be able to join us. I've been told that Krishna Kant won't be able to make it, so we have a select group, which means we can share a little bit more about what our ideas are and what our plans are. And once Timothy and or Krishna can't come in, we can make them join and make it a bigger group. At least that's how I think it works for me. Hey, I think I owe everybody also a small introduction, because asking everybody questions and then you might think in the back of your head, who is this guy? What's he doing? And why does he ask all these kind of questions? First of all, I'm Dutch, which means sometimes I can be direct. So please correct me if I'm saying questions or saying things where you think, hey, that was not the way I would phrase it. So bear with me with my culture. But normally that also means we're honest, we're loyal, and we stick to our ground. Next to that, I'm positioned here as global banking expert. I love that. It was actually, I was in my sabbatical, not completely self-chosen. COVID-19 made some people redundant amongst myself, but I took the time to consider my options, and then Mohammed more or less woke me up and said, can you please help us? Last year you were doing a speaking session in this summit. We enjoyed your presence. It looked like you enjoyed yourself as well, so maybe you can step up. And I think maybe I live in Dubai, so I come back from the beach and I think I'll do a few of these sessions. And This one is the first one I'm joining, so I'm very happy that Mohammed woke me up. And I'm very happy to be here. In history, 15 years of ING Group. You might have heard of ING Direct a long time ago, which was one of the first digital banks ever. I believe so. Look at that, Stemover. Hi, I was just introducing myself, and I agreed with everybody once you're in. Wow, you're a nice space, by the way. Are you going to do surgery soon? This is very, very wide. But anyway, 15 years of ING Group, 4.5 years of IBM. IBM transferred me over to Dubai. And within IBM, I had the responsibility for Africa, Middle East, and Pakistan and Turkey for their payment solutions, traveling a lot. Not that much to Ghana yet, but Temenos changed that. Temenos said, we want to do something more than core banking. We want to be good at digital banking, which means the omni-channel platform. We want to be good at payment solutions. So we have a payments hub. We want you to help us establish a bigger footprint in MEA. So I did that for 2 years, also coming to Accra, for example, and speaking last time on behalf of Temenos. As now I'm considering my opportunities for the future, but that's why I'm positioned here as global banking expert. So Mohammed, thank you for that. Hey, Temova, it's enough about me. Yeah. Temova, thanks for being able to join us. You have a beautiful white background. Is that the new office of Finastra?
This is the new virtual norm. Okay, so thanks, Erwin, and good day, everyone. My name is Timothy Erwin. I am responsible for international business in West Africa.
Timova, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but
can you hear me now?
I have the feeling your bandwidth is an issue. If you may stop the camera,
yes,
the audio could get better. All right, please go ahead if it's better now. Let's test.
Is it better now?
Works for me.
Okay, all right.
Thanks.
Okay, so yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome, Erwin. So my name is Tebofe. I am responsible for Finastra's business in West Africa, English-speaking West Africa. I'm based out of Lagos. One of the things that we're a software company and a platform company, we basically produce and offer services within the finance industry. To the point around this discussion on COVID and post-COVID and some of the things that we've seen, we think that, we believe actually, Erwin, that the future is here, the future is opened, and COVID has sort of brought the future forward to us, because one of the things that Finastra has done very well is to sort of, respond to some of the concerns that banks have raised to us. And I think it has largely been discussed on this platform. How do they ensure that their customers are, consuming their products? How can they move from brick and mortar to, brick and click, so to speak, like someone said on the platform? And that just brings us to what we call the fusionfabric.com, which is essentially a platform that allows the key players in the financial industry. You talk about the fintechs, you talk about the banks, you talk about the developers, systems integrators, universities, and all the people, the stakeholders in the finance industry, sort of come together and build this ecosystem that allows two things. One, it allows a high level of innovation and collaboration. I think it was First Bank. There's someone that was talking about the high level of collaboration that they're doing in their business, which I think is very, very important. And this really is what the fusionfabric.cloud really brings to us. And we believe that in this season where the experience has caused a lot of things to change, has brought a lot of new innovations into the financial sector. Fusionfabric.cloud gives banks and financial services the opportunity.
All right,
Oh,
it
hear me
sounds.
now?
Yeah, I can hear you again. You're having
Is
difficulties.
it better?
Yeah, there you are.
Erwin, can you hear me?
There's this metal sound in your voice, which means you're in and out, not 100%.
Hello?
No, I'm sorry, Tomo. It seems to be technically complicated. My suggestion is that we go to the. No, I think what we do, Tomo, is we might enter the group discussion now, and once you
Is it better?
you're still trying. Okay, feel free to try once again. Please go ahead, Tomo. No, I'm sorry. I think because of time constraints, we have 15 minutes left, and then Leopold will need to go for the next for his next activity. We need to leverage on that as much as possible, I would say. Once the month is capable to return, definitely we'll give all the floor to make sure his introduction gets finished and he participates in the discussion as much as possible. Is that guys, the team, are you okay with that? Immediately a test of your audio is on.
Yeah, we're okay with that.
Yeah, that's good. Fine.
Wonderful. Hey, let's start with the beginning, because we talk in this conference, and that is, of course, the topic of today, digital banking, and maybe the way digital banking has picked up and accelerated because of the pandemic. But what we also see is there's an economical impact. So there's a health impact, there's a digital solution, but at the end of the day, it is harder to do business for a lot of parties, which means small, medium enterprises are barely surviving. Small, medium enterprises might have loans with you as a bank and need a little bit of help to maybe have different period of time to pay off or anything. We know central bank and their stimulus packages and everything, but what are the banks doing? And maybe Leopold, I can start with you. How is Guaranteed Trust Bank looking at the economic struggle the small medium enterprises are going through, and how can you lend a hand?
It's clear the SMEs are the backbone of the economic development of the country, and they've played major role in developing and sustaining our economy. What banks have done, and it started from from the central bank, where banks were encouraged to either reduce or freeze interest, and then also introduce moratorium to some of the facilities that they have. That, I believe, is just the basic that banks can do. And what we as Guaranteed Trust Bank have started doing is to help them to scale up their businesses. We came up with a product late last year called SME Suite that enables businesses to have some form of web presence in terms of presenting their wares or their services, in addition to receiving payments. And I believe that solution was something that helped us to position ourselves in readiness for the COVID. So at the peak of the COVID, and I'm sure most of you, most people in Ghana will attest to the fact that we realized one of the things that the country was exposed is the absence of a large pool of domestic e-commerce platforms. Mm-hmm. Yes, e-services in terms of topping up your credit, renewing your Netflix subscription, DSTV, those services are always available. But what about buying goods? Something basic. Mm-hmm. There's still the level of human interaction. And that is what that product has stepped in to resolve. And we believe that is the opportunity we are picking from COVID, and is going to help us to scale up businesses. So most of the SMEs within our portfolio have started signing on to that product to help them to have, and it costs less than $40, between $40 to $150 a year, to have full web presence and payment capabilities.
That sounds like a wonderful idea indeed for helping SMEs to have a presence on the digital space. How is then the fulfillment? Because if you want to order something, it also needs to be delivered, and there's maybe some stock. Is that something you have a role in, or this is something this SME needs to take care of?
We've looked at the entire value chain. So SMEs and then even the delivery capabilities must be there. And we've taken all into consideration. We've taken that pressure off the SMEs. And what we have been encouraging them is to focus on their service. And then we have introduced third parties, because this is a period for collaboration and partnerships. So we brought in third parties within the value chain to ensure that services are delivered seamlessly.
Okay, very, very nice. Dennis, how are things at First City Monument Bank? If you talk about, first of all, what we've said earlier is we go from economic to functional to application and maybe some IT solution. That's why we have the value chain here. Dennis, in your mind, what has the bank done in terms of economic? Were there lots of microcredits required in which you had to provide a solution to? Or Dennis, what was at your bank, the approach on making sure the economical impact was controlled?
Okay, so for SMEs, one of the biggest things rather in their world is financing. So my colleague already alluded to that. So first there was a package, stimulus package from the CBN, but what we did was so internally we reduced some rates and also gave moratorium periods, extended moratorium periods for repayment across all our loan product types, really. Another thing we did more of was we have a unique offering for women-owned, women-managed businesses. Right. And under that we have zero interest loans. To select participants or select customers, and we did more of that this year. We also have capacity mentorship building program under that as well, which I think the share number that went through that during this period was also increased because we needed to impact customers better. On our advisory beat, we do a lot on advisory, so but there's a whole team that's handling that. And one of the things that we started with last year is risk sharing structure, which essentially allows your customers to manage their collateral cover in a very ingenious way, and by taking that with certain external parties, DFIs, and extending it to our customers, we saw a big opportunity to do more of that during this pandemic period to support our customers who clearly did not have enough to collateralize the loans, even the loans that they could access based on their credit score. The last thing I would talk about is on our SME platform. So registration is free, and for now, so unlike my colleague in GTB, we're offering only services for now. We've not started selling products. So if you're a merchant, you're a customer, and you have a service that you sell, legal service, tax services, you can come register there. It's for free. We have like an escrow account service that ensures that payments are secured. So once service is confirmed, then payment is made to the merchant, and every party is essentially taken care of. So these are some of the highlights, that we have done to try and make things more manageable for our customers. This in addition to some other social responsibilities that the bank has carried out also, although that clearly impacts more across all segments of customers beyond the ones I oversee. Yeah.
Thank you. It sounds to me from both Leopold as from you is that digital banking, because digital banking is then the enabler for pushing out the solutions for the clients. That digital banking is also diversification. If I hear e-commerce as a solution, a platform for SMEs, for services, I hear digital banking is not just changing the organization in the bank, but it's also helping providing digital services to your end customers and helping your SMEs to create an environment or to have an environment in which they can reach their clients. So we need to think a little bit bigger when we talk about digital. We don't talk about just operations and changing of the interaction between bank and client, but also expanding the set of services. Is that correct, Leopold, Dennis?
Yeah, that is. So across what he has said and what I've been saying, it's like I've said, we always need to lead with what the customer wants. I realize as bankers, we get too stuck in developing solutions that we think, hey, this is what they want, So we have learned that painfully over the years. So we always lead with customers, engaging them to know what exactly that they want. And then we do go through a process of iterative tests to ensure that it is continually refined, and so the expression of that is leading with digital. For instance, we do away with a lot of forms. We want to do away with a lot of forms. There's a recent enhancement that I brought for onboarding onto web payment engine. Historically, or prior to when I launched that, you always had to go into the branch, you fill a form, drop it, and then it will be processed and you'll be profiled. But now we've created a digital platform where you can just go. If you're a customer, you put in your account details, we validate you, and then presto, your profile can be created. If you are a non-customer, so we even extend it to non-customers, and they can also be assisted even though they are not customers of the bank. Yeah, so we do have that thought perspective leading what we do.
Right. I'm going to invite the other panel members just to respond to what we're saying, because at the end of the day, we wanted to have a small discussion. If I look at the time, we have a few minutes left. So Dina, I'm just going to invite you, because you hear it's not just the bank in itself and the bank organization itself, it's also expanding services. It's also maybe thinking and putting yourself further in the shoes of your client. How does it relate to your human capital perspective and your objectives? And how do you comment on what just Leopold and Dina were sharing?
Okay, hello, Erwin. If you're talking about the effect of COVID-19 on the banking sector, and especially on human resources and human capital in the banking, I'll say it's for the short time it was very harmful in terms of salaries. We are paying salaries in terms of productivity and in terms as well of working hours. But if we are thinking about long-term effects, on the long-term effect, it was very helpful from the perspective of the banking sector, have an incredible employment opportunity to drive forward digital transformation. As well, it's accelerating the applying of the digital transformation idea. I don't like to say that, but this is what happened. It is forced or make the change of behaviors and habits to be imposed on the employees, and it helps us to adopt lots of strategies such as working from home and such technique we are using now. And yes, this is what I think about the effect of pandemic.
Yeah, so slowly but surely we're moving into the silver lining. So we have a pandemic. It has cost human life. It does cost us economically, but there's a silver lining, and the silver lining is moving forward into a digital space, enhancing what we were already thinking of what we wanted to do in our industry. And I think if we take, I think Timove is back. Timove, if we talk about silver lining and talk about your support, your capabilities to support the industry and the players here in the team, just Timove, is there a silver lining in your perspective, and how will you handle it from your perspective? And yeah, no need to raise your hand. Just jump in, Timove. You're back, right?
Yes, I am back. Thanks, Erwin. No thanks to network. I think there is a silver lining. A lot of companies, a lot of banks that we've actually spoken with, some of our customers, they've also shared some concerns. And one thing I hear very, very strongly, with some of our customers is how do they bridge the gap between delivering a service and also bringing in that phase of empathy so that the customers, their customers can be at least as comfortable going through this whole pandemic era. And one of the things I have also seen, some of our customers have done is sort of cushion the effect on some of the facilities that some of their customers are already having with them, to enable these customers, gain themselves again, if you like, and be able to put themselves together from a business perspective. So really, Erwin, there is a silver lining in my view, really. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I think for you the opportunity is to support banks even more with your solutions you have in mind, and maybe even step to the regulator and say the digital onboarding, things in the cloud. We need a little bit of your support because we have a different kind of environment. But Javed, if you hear this, the silver lining, what do you think if you look, okay, we have had all these problems and we are capable to step up and cater for our clients. What's the silver lining according to you?
I think this sort of leapfrogs what most of the organizations wanted to achieve in the next sort of 10 years. All of that has just, sort of had to be implemented within a short time, which is basically 6 months, because it's everything, customer experience and being able to acquire new customers and be able to serve them regardless of whether there's human contact or not. So the silver lining in my view is now we're going to see a leapfrog in terms of technology uptake. We're going to see a leapfrog in terms of solutions being provided. And we're going to see solutions that will be more futuristic as opposed to where it's like sort of slow and painful process to get to the future. I think also entities are looking at what happens in 2021 and there's more lockdowns or another pandemic or whatever. So essentially everyone is looking at the future is basically digital, and it's time to invest in it, and it's time to sort of implement all those plans that had been delayed for whatever reason or excuses that had been provided. So essentially, I think this is good for the continent, it's good for everyone, it's good for business, and it's good for tech. So essentially, because we have everything, we've just sort of never had the sense of urgency to implement all that. So I guess this has been the chance. This has been the push that was just needed for that to happen.
All right, Jafet.
And sorry, Erwin.
Go ahead, please.
Yeah, and just to add to Jafet's point, one of the things, because I'm not sure where I got caught off when I was trying to talk about Finastra, and one of the things that we've also done, in terms of bringing support to customers, and really is around what we call the Fusion Fabric.cloud. Essentially what that means, again, we're talking about the new norm is how do we support banks in terms of through their digitalization journey? How do we ensure that the banks themselves, especially the IT units, become more profit centers as opposed to cost centers, and how do they do more with less? So in that level, or from that angle, Erwin, what we've done again is to introduce again the Fusion Fabric.cloud, which is a platform service that really helps banks to help them in the way they consume software, and also monetize that software. And we've seen a lot of positive response from some of our customers within the African space and of course in the European space. So that for me is key with regards to supporting the customers.
All right. Yeah, thanks, Marvel. Thanks for the contribution, and also very happy that you're back. We can hear you very properly. But it takes effort, but when you get there, you get there. That's good. In my eyes, if I do a summary a little bit, so we have seen that banks step up and take their social responsibility. We also see it's not just banks, but it's diversification of the services. We have understood that the human capital impact in working from remote, salary cuts, being redundant, as I know personally, is a short-term impact. On the longer-term impact, we see actually the profit or the silver lining. I still want to be very cautious to say the positive side, because the negative side is still so much in our face, but the positive side is the acceleration and therefore the growth of business, as Javed said. I think if I summarize it like this, it also opens up the door for some public discussion. If I look at the time, we're 2 minutes past the hour. I said we would stop at 2 because of other engagements of our team, but maybe 5 minutes more for some questions out of the audience. Mohammed, can you facilitate this, or is there any way we can receive those questions from you, please? Are you there, Mohammed?
I am very much here.
Wonderful.
Well, thank you for the compliment. There was a lot you mentioned about getting Timofey back. We'll talk about it now. Okay, from the audience, just real quick. The question here was, I will need to pull that up. There was one question that, okay. Somebody asked me here, let me get the name of the person. Just a minute. Edward Aqua. It says banks recovery from pandemic to take long say in terms of they're basically trying to ask that we've taken a negative hit in terms of recovery of loans, and with all the moratoriums, how long or short will it be until banks get back to normal operations? I mean, this is more like somebody is asking you to predict the future. Would you like to comment?
I think this is for Leopold or Dennis at first, maybe, or Javed might have an idea.
I will put it simple. It will depend on how long all of us will recover. Banks don't operate in isolation. So it's a larger community, and all of us must work together to recover from COVID.
Yeah.
So it depends on all of us. We need to get the vaccine going. Everybody must be okay with COVID. Businesses must come back, and then we can now talk about all of us back to the new normal.
I'm going to be daring, Leopold. I'm going to say, well, this is going to happen. First, we have the vaccine rollout in 2021. Maybe in September, October, we are maybe almost vaccinated, if not a little bit later. So 2021 is a recovery year, or actually sustaining of the problem. 2022 might be a recovery year. 2023 still another one. So maybe we're talking 24. Is that I'm just going to be bold here because I can't really say it. But how does that sound?
Are you saying that we only meet again as a conference in 2024?
No. I'm saying the impact, the economical impact on banks and when they recovered, as the question was phrased. But hopefully we can meet very soon in person. In Dubai, it's already quite...
I have the wine bottle I bought for you.
Appreciate that.
Yeah.
Mohammed.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm sorry for interruption. I'd like to answer this question from the point of view of the HR in banks or in banking sector. In my mind, I don't want to be pessimistic, but in my mind, it will never back to the same HR function before the pandemic or before the digital transformation era. There is real changes happened. There is almost lots of jobs threatened and changing job rules in the banking sector. Some jobs have already changes and its rules changes. It's the mindset changes. New skills required for the new job rules, and reskilling the staff is must. And lots of new techniques like agile and OPS. So I don't want, and it will never back the same before the pandemic.
Clear.
Right. Okay.
I think you have a point there. I think we have to get used to this new normal. But let's look at the time, because I think it was a clear answer, and Leo, you had a good answer as well. Mohammed, were there more questions?
No, actually, that was the only question we received. However, I would like to say something.
Please.
The panel discussion, the topic for the panel was the future of BFSI post-pandemic and measures to be taken to convert crisis into advantage and improve current business modules, right? It's nowhere related to BFSI, but we have kind of used. I personally we've never really done online conferences, right? Erwin's been to one of our conferences, and a lot of you have, in fact, Leopold as well. So I think this has kind of helped us. The current crisis has helped us take advantage and improve, the current business modules, as a result of which today we gather here with more audience than last year, and information packed sessions, and so much to take back in terms of learning without having to fly over to different countries. So we are getting used to the new normal, like you said, Erwin.
Okay, Mohammed. Yeah. Just an ending note from my side. I love the personal interaction, and I'm happy I'm at home. I'm happy I'm not pushing out CO2 with the plane when I'm traveling. But definitely, I'm looking forward to the personal interaction, because having this great panel, it's wonderful, and I want to thank you very much for being on this panel. But I would really, really love and look forward to shaking your hand, or at least in person, greet you and thank you for your participation. And I really look forward to that. But let's grab this opportunity to see this indeed as a positive, see it as growth of business, and see it as an opportunity, although it was a challenging environment which got us here. Any points from the panel which we should have touched, which I'm missing? Leo, from you?
I will just sum up by saying that one of the things COVID has taught us is that there's too much unfinished business for us to continue maintaining the status quo. That means new strategies must come in, and it will take everybody, both financial sector, that is the dominant player within the ecosystem, and others, to recover and make the world a better place for everybody.
Those are nice closing words. I like that. Dennis, any closing words from you? I'm just going to wrap up. Dennis, you're not with us anymore. All right, I understand. No. Javed, closing statement.
I think what our take should be is, we already know that we have a widening digital divide in the continent. We need to know what opportunities are there and be able to ascertain them, and then plan to be able to, transform our organizations to be able to sort of provide those solutions, and it will also bring operational resilience to our businesses in the end.
And the audience, people who want to contact you, their contact details can be found via Mohammed, right?
Definitely. They can reach us anytime.
That's perfect. Timova, are you there? Just trying. No, not lucky.
I am. I'm here.
And a face. Wow, great. And a headphone. You look very modern with the headphone too. Hey, closing statement.
Erwin, I think one of the big lessons that we've learned from this post-COVID is that life is important, and human resource is the key and most important element in any business. Business certainly would not be business as usual, but if businesses would have to thrive post-COVID, then emphasis and more focus should be given to human lives. I think it's very important. Yeah.
Wow, Timova, you're so good in making a bridge to what I wanted to ask Dina. But I agree. It's all about human beings at the end of the day. It's about how we deal with each other, how we are able to deal with changes, how we deal with impact in our own lives, and how we are resilient as a human beings and still stay social and still stay connected. Dina, your closing statement.
Thank you, Erwin. The closing statement, and every event closing statement, is that the change is the only constant in life. So if you think that, if you as human think that digital transformation is threatening you, that's because you are not adapting to change quickly and not sharpening your skills. what came in mind when you say digital transformation, that's the increasing of automation. The banking sector will lead to massive trend of unemployment of banking workforce due to digital technologies. But in real, it's not. It's just a change like anything else. And the banking sector will provide huge opportunity in technology-related jobs such as cybersecurity specialist, robot programmer, blockchain architect, and processes modeler expert. So work on yourself, sharpen your skills, and don't be afraid from anything.
Embrace the change. Don't be afraid. Embrace the change. That's what I hear you say. Yes. All right, wonderful. Thank you so much for having this discussion. I really appreciated getting to know you also in the preparations phase. So I look forward to staying in touch with you. And I'd like to thank the audience for listening to us and participating. And I hope we actually gave something to the audience, which if they want to continue talking via Mohammed, contact can be done and can be picked up. And I hope you enjoyed us. Thank you so much, Mohammed. I would leave it to you.
Thank you, Erwin. Thank you, everybody. I will hopefully see you very soon. And we will connect again. I will give you all the feedback about the panel, and I would request you all to maybe just drop me an email on your experience about how the panel went, or the conference, or the platform itself as a whole. That would be highly appreciated. And I will get in touch with you soon with our 2021 calendar. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a lovely one, Japeth. Thank you, Dina. Take care. Bye, Erwin. Bye, Leo.
Yes, yes.
Thanks.
Yes. Moving on.
Thank you, Mohammed.
You're welcome. Thank you. Thank you, Timothy. Bye-bye.